Some women walk through the world and men cannot look away. Their presence, a quiet fire, burns without effort, drawing hearts into orbit. What is it about these women that makes men unravel, their thoughts consumed, their nights restless? It's not beauty alone, nor charm, nor calculated seduction. It's something deeper, something primal, woven into the fabric of their being. 5 hidden traits that pulse with the power of the feminine, traits that Carl Jung's psychology unveils as the keys to an unshakable allure. These women, embodying the archetype of the silent oracle, speak not in words, but in presence, their essence a riddle that haunts the masculine soul. Their mystery is not a game. It is a truth, a force that stirs the unconscious and ignites obsession. The first trait is the embrace of the shadow. Jung taught that the shadow is the hidden self, the parts we bury, the desires we deny, the fears we mask. A woman who knows her shadow does not hide her complexity. She feels the sting of her anger, the weight of her sorrow, the heat of her longing, and she honors them. This authenticity is magnetic. When she moves through the world, unafraid of her own darkness, she becomes a mirror for a man's unclaimed truths. He sees in her what he cannot face in himself, his own buried emotions, his own unspoken needs. Modern psychology echoes this. Studies on attraction show that authenticity, the raw truth of one's being, draws others in. Her shadow, worn like a quiet crown, makes her unforgettable. The second trait is emotional sovereignty. Stoic wisdom, as Marcus Aurelius taught, urges us to govern what lies within our control, our thoughts, our feelings, our choices. A woman who embodies this does not seek validation from a man's gaze. She does not bend to his expectations or reshape herself to ease his discomfort. Instead, she tends to her own soul, cultivating a stillness that radiates power. This detachment is not coldness, but a sacred boundary. When she refuses to chase, when she stands complete in her own being, something shifts. The masculine, accustomed to pursuit, feels the ground tremble. His obsession begins not because she is unavailable, but because she is whole. Her independence becomes a flame he cannot extinguish. This wholeness ties to Jung's concept of individuation, the journey to integrate light and shadow to become a singular self. A woman on this path does not perform femininity, she embodies it. She is the silent oracle, her presence a quiet prophecy that speaks to the soul. Her power lies in what she withholds, not what she gives. A single glance, heavy with intention, can linger in a man's mind for days. A word, spoken with purpose, can echo in his dreams. Modern psychology supports this. Attachment theory shows that secure individuals, those who need no external anchor, are often the most compelling. Her certainty, her refusal to be defined, becomes a riddle he cannot solve. Woman, consider this. What if your power lies not in being seen, but in being felt? What if your strength is in the spaces you leave empty, the questions you leave unanswered? The silent oracle does not explain herself. She does not justify her worth. She simply is, present, yet elusive, a force that reshapes those around her without effort. But this power comes with a challenge. To embody these traits is to risk being misunderstood, to walk a path of solitude in the name of authenticity. Yet it is in this risk that her allure deepens. She becomes a catalyst, stirring the masculine soul to awaken, to confront its own shadows. But what are the remaining traits that make her irresistible? How does she wield this power without losing herself? The silent oracle holds the answers, her presence a quiet promise of truths yet to be revealed. The masculine chases not just her, but the parts of himself she mirrors. Can he face what she unveils, or will his obsession consume him? The next step in this dance waits to unfold. The silent oracle moves through the world, her presence a quiet storm, stirring the masculine soul with a force she does not wield but simply embodies. Her power lies in the traits that make her untouchable, a living enigma that haunts the unconscious. The third trait is her deliberate silence, not the absence of words, but the choice to speak only what carries weight. Carl Jung's psychology reveals the power of the unspoken, the way silence can awaken the anima, the feminine archetype within a man that bridges him to his buried emotions. When a woman chooses silence over explanation, she becomes a canvas for his projections, a mystery he cannot unravel. Her restraint is not weakness, but strength, a declaration that her truth does not need validation. This silence is a discipline, echoing Seneca's Stoic teaching to focus on what lies within our control. A woman who masters this trait does not fill the air with justifications or pleas. She speaks with intention, her words like stones dropped into a still pond. Rippling through his mind long after she's gone. Modern psychology supports this. Studies on interpersonal dynamics show that restraint in communication heightens intrigue, signaling confidence and depth. When she pauses before responding, when she lets a moment hang heavy with meaning, she creates a void. That void becomes a mirror, forcing him to confront his own neediness, his own unexamined desires. Her silence is not rejection, it is an invitation to look within. The fourth trait is her unapologetic authenticity. Jung's concept of the shadow teaches that true power comes from embracing the parts of ourselves we fear, our anger, our vulnerability, our contradictions. A woman who embodies the silent oracle does not hide her flaws or soften her edges to be palatable. She is raw, real, unafraid to feel the full spectrum of her humanity. This authenticity is magnetic because it is rare. In a world that demands conformity, her refusal to dim her light becomes a beacon. She does not perform for his approval, she exists for her own truth. This, in turn, sparks his obsession, not because she is perfect, but because she is whole. Woman, pause and ask, what does it mean to stand in your truth unapologetically? To let your silence speak louder than words? The silent oracle knows that her power lies in her presence, not her performance. When you embrace your shadow, when you choose your words with care, you become a force that reshapes the world around you. But this power demands courage. It asks you to release the need to be understood, to let go of the urge to explain yourself. It asks you to trust that your essence is enough. When you do, you become a riddle, a flame, a mystery that lingers in his soul. Yet this mystery is not without tension. The masculine, stirred by her silence and authenticity, may seek to possess what he cannot understand. His obsession can teeter on the edge of control, a desire to unravel her, to make her known. Here, the silent oracle must hold her ground. She does not fight his longing, nor does she surrender to it. She remains present, yet elusive, giving just enough to kindle his desire, withholding just enough to preserve her essence. Marcus Aurelius taught that true strength lies in mastering oneself, not others. For a woman, this means choosing her own path, even when it leads through shadows. The fifth trait waits, a final key to her power, a force that binds the others into an unshakable whole. It is the culmination of her journey, the essence of the silent oracle's allure. But what is this trait that makes her not just desired but unforgettable? How does it transform her presence into a legacy that haunts his heart? The masculine chases not just her, but the truth she mirrors. Can she wield this final trait without losing herself in his gaze? The answer lies in the next breath, where her power and his obsession collide. The silent oracle stands as a beacon, her presence a quiet force that reshapes the masculine soul without effort, without clamor. Her power lies in the traits that make her a living enigma, a woman who does not chase but commands attention through her being. The fourth trait, her unapologetic authenticity, pulses with the raw truth of her humanity, but it is the fifth trait, her spiritual depth, that binds these qualities into an unshakable whole. Carl Jung's concept of individuation, the journey to integrate the self, reveals this depth as the heart of her allure. A woman who seeks her own soul, who dives into the mysteries of her inner world, becomes a force that transcends the ordinary. Her spiritual depth is not loud or performative. It is a quiet knowing, a connection to something eternal that makes her magnetic. This depth is what sets her apart. She does not seek meaning in external validation, but in the quiet moments of reflection, in the questions she asks of her own heart. Jung taught that the unconscious is a vast ocean where archetypes like the anima, the feminine within a man, stir his deepest longings. When a woman embodies this archetype through her spiritual depth, she becomes a guide, leading him to confront his own soul. Her presence is not just felt, it is transformative. Modern psychology echoes this. Studies on attraction show that men are drawn to women who exude purpose, a sense of being anchored in something greater than themselves. Her depth becomes a mirror, reflecting his own unclaimed potential. Stoic wisdom, as Epictetus urged, teaches us to focus on what lies within our power, our thoughts, our values, our choices. A woman who lives this truth does not cling to a man's approval. She does not reshape herself to fit his desires. Instead, she tends to her own spirit, cultivating a connection to her inner truth. This self-sufficiency is what makes her irresistible. When she moves through the world with this quiet certainty, she becomes a force that cannot be ignored. A single moment of her presence, a glance, a pause, a word, can linger in his mind, haunting him not because she tried, but because she is. Her spiritual depth is her power, a flame that burns without consuming her. Woman, consider this. What if your allure lies not in what you do, but in who you are becoming? What if your power is in the depths you explore within yourself? The silent oracle does not seek to be seen, she seeks to be true. When you embrace your spiritual depth, when you honor the questions that stir your soul, you become a living archetype. You are the muse, the guide, the mystery that reshapes his world. But this power demands courage. It asks you to let go of the need to be understood, to release the urge to be defined by his gaze. It asks you to trust that your soul is enough. Yet this depth brings tension. The masculine, captivated by her presence, may seek to possess what he cannot comprehend. His obsession can become a need to unravel her, to make her known. Here, the silent oracle must hold her center. She does not fight his desire, nor does she surrender to it. She remains present, yet elusive, giving just enough to kindle his longing, withholding just enough to preserve her essence. Seneca's words ring true: we suffer more in imagination than in reality. For a man, her depth becomes a canvas for his imagination, a riddle he cannot solve. Her power lies in remaining a question, not an answer. But how does she balance this depth with her humanity? How does she embody the silent oracle without losing herself in the role? The 5 traits, her shadow, her sovereignty, her silence, her authenticity, her depth, form a tapestry of power, but they also demand a price. To wield them is to risk being misunderstood, to walk a path of solitude in the name of truth. Yet, it is in this risk that her freedom lies. Can she hold these traits as one, becoming a force that transforms not just him, but herself? The final truth of her power waits, ready to unfold. The silent oracle moves through the world, her essence a quiet tide that pulls at the masculine heart. Her power, woven from 5 hidden traits, is not in what she seeks, but in what she embodies. Her shadow, her sovereignty, her silence, her authenticity, and her spiritual depth form a constellation of allure, each trait amplifying the others. Together, they make her a force that lingers in the soul, a mystery that haunts without effort. Carl Jung's psychology reveals why. She is the anima incarnate, the feminine archetype that stirs a man's unconscious, awakening desires he cannot name. Her presence is not a performance, but a truth, a living testament to her own becoming. This becoming is the heart of her power. Jung's concept of individuation, the journey to integrate light and shadow to become whole, defines her. A woman who walks this path does not chase external validation. She chases her own truth. She dives into the depths of her soul, confronting her fears, her desires, her contradictions. This journey is not loud but quiet, a pilgrimage made in moments of reflection, in choices that align with her inner compass. Modern psychology affirms this. Studies on attraction show that men are drawn to women who exude purpose, a sense of being rooted in their own being. Her wholeness is what makes her magnetic, a flame that draws him in without burning her out. Stoic wisdom, as Marcus Aurelius taught, urges us to focus on what lies within our control, our thoughts, our actions, our truth. The silent oracle lives this principle. She does not bend to a man's need to define her. She does not adjust her light to ease his discomfort. Instead, she stands in her own certainty, a woman who knows her worth without needing his gaze to confirm it. This self-sufficiency is what makes her unforgettable. A single moment, a glance heavy with meaning, a silence that speaks, can shift his world. Her power lies not in what she gives, but in what she withholds, in the spaces she leaves for him to explore his own soul. Woman, pause and ask, what does it mean to be a force unto yourself? To carry a power that reshapes without effort. The silent oracle does not seek to be understood, she seeks to be true. When you embrace your shadow, when you honor your silence, when you cultivate your depth, you become a living archetype. You are the muse, the guide, the enigma that stirs his heart. But this power demands courage. It asks you to release the need to be seen, to let go of the urge to explain yourself. It asks you to trust that your presence is enough, that your truth is a flame that burns eternal. Yet there is tension in this dance. The masculine, captivated by her mystery, may seek to unravel her, to make her known. His obsession can become a need to possess, to pin her essence to a definition he can grasp. Here, the silent oracle must hold her ground. She does not fight his longing, nor does she surrender to it. She remains present, yet elusive, giving just enough to kindle his desire, withholding just enough to preserve her soul. Epic. Edda's taught that freedom lies in accepting what we cannot control. For a woman, this means letting go of his perceptions, his expectations, and choosing her own path instead. This choice is her liberation. By embodying these 5 traits, she becomes a catalyst, not just for his transformation, but for her own. Her shadow makes her real, her sovereignty makes her free, her silence makes her powerful, her authenticity makes her magnetic, her depth makes her eternal. Together, they form the silent oracle, a woman who does not chase, but draws the world to her. But how does she balance this power with her humanity? How does she remain a mystery without becoming a ghost? The final truth of her allure lies in the choices she makes next, in the way she weaves these traits into a life of freedom and purpose. The silent oracle stands as a living flame, her essence a quiet force that reshapes the masculine soul without striving, without clamor. Her 5 traits, shadow, sovereignty, silence, authenticity, and spiritual depth, form a tapestry of power, each thread weaving her into a mystery that haunts the heart. She is not a puzzle to be solved, but a truth to be felt, a woman who embodies Carl Jung's anima, the feminine archetype that stirs a man's unconscious, awakening desires he cannot name. Her allure is not in what she seeks, but in what she is, a force of nature, complete in her own being, radiant in her refusal to be defined. This refusal is her freedom, Jung's concept of individuation. The journey to integrate light and shadow defines her path. She does not chase approval or bend to expectations. She dives into her own soul, embracing her complexities, her contradictions, her truths. This journey makes her magnetic, not because she tries, but because she is whole. Modern psychology affirms this. Studies on attraction show that men are drawn to women who exude self-possession, a quiet certainty that signals strength. Her presence is a mirror, reflecting his unclaimed desires, his buried fears. He chases not just her, but the parts of himself she unveils, the truths he cannot face alone. Stoic wisdom, as Seneca taught, urges us to focus on what lies within our control, our thoughts, our choices, our truth. The silent oracle lives this principle. She does not adjust her light to ease a man's discomfort. She does not explain her worth or justify her silence. Instead, she moves through the world with a quiet power, her presence a testament to her inner strength. This self-sufficiency is what makes her unforgettable. A single moment, a glance, a pause, a word, can linger in his mind, haunting him not because she planned it, but because her essence is undeniable. Her power lies in being, not doing. Woman, consider this. What if your greatest allure is your freedom? What if your strength lies in the truth you choose to live? The silent oracle does not need his gaze to know her worth. She is the flame, the shadow, the mystery that stirs the soul. When you embrace your shadow, when you honor your silence, when you cultivate your depth, you become a force that reshapes the world. This power demands courage, the courage to be misunderstood, to walk alone if needed, to trust that your soul is enough. In that trust, you find liberation, a peace that radiates outward, drawing others to you without effort. Yet there is a delicate balance in this dance. The masculine, captivated by her mystery, may seek to possess what he cannot understand. His obsession can become a need to control, to unravel her enigma. Here, the silent oracle shines brightest. She does not fight his desire, nor does she surrender to it. She remains present, yet elusive, giving just enough to kindle his longing, withholding just enough to preserve her essence. Epictetus taught that true freedom lies in letting go of what we cannot control. For a woman, this means releasing his perceptions, his expectations, and choosing her own path, a path of sovereignty, authenticity, and depth. This choice is her triumph. The five traits, her shadow's truth, her sovereign heart, her silent power, her authentic presence, her spiritual depth, make her not just desired but eternal. She is the silent oracle, a woman who transforms not by chasing but by being. Her power lies in her freedom, her peace in her truth. She does not need his obsession to know her worth. She knows it in her soul. And in that knowing, she becomes a force that lingers, a flame that burns without end. Share the moment you felt most empowered in the comments below. The woman who knows her worth does not chase, she chooses.